Hey Team Rising, welcome to the first ever Rising Q&A. Truly a historic day, I would say, Sagar. We're answering some of the questions that you sent in via Twitter. So, okay, first one, if I may, Sagar, from @ShamaBeth, wants to know if we're going to ever see a Dem debate held by a non-mainstream outlet. What do you think, Sagar?
No, unfortunately. Shami, I have bad news for you. That will never happen. Actually, the schedules for all of these things are already announced. CNN and MSNBC are the only people who will be doing it. It's a sad day for America.
Agree.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we should be hosting the next Democratic debate if anything was fair and just in this country. That's true, which we appreciate and fully support.
I'll allow Joe Rogan to sit beside us if he wants to do it. All right.
Generous of you.
All right, so the second question, this comes from Adrian Canyoli. He asks, if a progressive Democrat like Sanders or Warren wins the presidency, do you think the MSM will say that their victory was just an anti-Trump backlash? I often wonder if it will be used to claim that they don't have a mandate to implement big policies like Medicare for All and the Green New Deal.
Adrian is thinking way ahead of the game here. I think I'm totally right. And especially, I think there's a difference between if Warren is elected versus if Bernie is elected. Like, Bernie is already being really dismissed and otherized by the media as somehow, weird and different and outside of the American mainstream. So I don't see any reason why that trend wouldn't continue were he to be in the Oval Office.
What Adrian gets his finger on the pulse here is that everybody in D.C. wants to retroactively write a narrative for something whenever it happens. So, for example, when Trump won, I saw all these right-wing grifters be like, "Oh, well, Trump won because people want lower taxes." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, did you watch the same election that I did?" And the same thing, George W. Bush thought that he won his second term to privatize Social Security, and it went down in flames. No, Mr. President, you won because of the Iraq War, and people wanted you to keep us safe.
There's also this dynamic, though, this left-right dynamic, where when Republicans win, even when they lose the popular vote and win by the skin of their teeth, they're like, we have a mandate to do absolutely everything we want. And Democrats are like, well, we're going to work together with you. Let's be nice. We only won by a little bit. So there's a little bit of a left-right cultural dynamic there as well.
I hear you.
All right. Next question from Chetan. You two come from kind of opposite perspectives on some things, certainly. Have you guys changed each other's minds on any topics? Sagar.
I would say, Crystal, you have basically moved my Overton window on healthcare and made me ask the right questions. And I have to evaluate things within a different framework. So it used to be, I think, much more of a cost-based form. But when you start to look at things from a universalist care perspective, it changes the way that you ask questions about different policies.
What I would say is one of the points you make about the Trump administration and how they didn't have all the people surrounding them to implement the agenda, right? They had the agenda, but then they didn't have all the framework and the bureaucratic pieces to put in place. That's something I hadn't really fully processed and thought about that I think is important that I've sort of put into my calculus.
That's a huge warning from me to Bernie Sanders and to all those people, which is, listen, I've seen this story before. You come in, you're the outsider, you're the revolution, you want to take over. Guess what? Government's not one person. It's not the 10 people in the West Wing. It's 1,000 people. It's actually 10,000 people.
Yeah. Well, big difference, though, is Bernie Sanders has been in this town for a minute. Yeah. He's got a little bit of an understanding of how things work here than President Trump.
But it takes I mean, I don't think he would be as incompetent whenever you're trying to staff your own government full of people who actually.
I don't think he's going to bring in the Goldman Sachs dudes like Trump did.
But that issue remains, which is that Bernie is going to have that problem, which is, guess what? Not that many people in this town believe what you want to believe. And same with President Trump. And it was a big problem for him. And I think
that's fair.
The central problem for his administration.
If he were to get elected, he would really need to bring in a wholesale change in thinking, because otherwise the neoliberal establishment will just eat him alive.
There you go. Question number 4 from Dax McCoy TV. He asked how your criticism of the mainstream media has affected your work relations. He says, you both have explained media bias whenever it comes to candidates who hold populist ideas. As hosts who dissent from the default groupthink, how has it affected your work relationships with those in the media? Crystal, I mean, this is much more of a question for you, I think.
Yeah. I mean, look, I came up in cable news. I worked at MSNBC. I think given how critical I've been, I don't think they'll be asking me back anytime soon.
Never, yeah.
But I'm fine with that because I value so much the independence that we have here. I mean, really, we have so much freedom to question conventional wisdom. That's welcome. It's celebrated. So I'm cool with it. And honestly, there are a lot of people within those organizations who also have qualms with the way coverage is conducted, who recognize some of the blind spots. As we both say, these are not bad people, but any organization is subject to bureaucracy, is subject to groupthink. People are subject to, they recognize the incentives of how the coverage should be, what they should be looking at. So, I think some bridges have probably been burned, but I'm also okay with that.
That's fair. I mean, from my perspective, look, I mean, I was never broadly accepted when I was a White House correspondent because I used to work for the Daily Caller. But I think what's interesting is that I have marched to the beat of my own drum, even from their perspective. I was never one to kind of, fall victim to just only asking like right-wing questions, which like right-wing boomers wanted me to ask. And I think I fairly interviewed the president on a couple of different occasions, and that is really was. That was the revelation to me, which is that being fair was a partisan choice in the eyes of many in the White House press corps. And that really bothered me. And that's part of the reason I left that job, is because it was one of those things where there's so much groupthink within the rooms that if you decide to dissent or if you decide not to go along, there's active hostility.
Yeah.
So I mean, my views have definitely affected my work relationships. But I think there's a lot of respect for what we're doing over here, so they have to balance it too.
I also think honestly people appreciate that we're not hiding the ball on what we think and believe.
Not at all.
So you can factor that into what we're saying and how you view the topics that we tackle. All right. So next we have Flores, who boldly asked 4 questions. Well, guess what, buddy? We're only answering 1. Sagar, cats or dogs?
Dog. There's a photo of my dog, Thatcher. I've had a dog since I was a child, and I can't live without one. So the moment that I had time and space, I secured my rescue dog, which you see on the left.
Aw.
Yeah.
Well, you can see my puppy. That's Phoebe. She's actually my daughter's dog, and Ella, my oldest, does a very good job taking care of her. I have to confess, and I know people are going to hate this, in reality, I am a cat person.
Ooh, that's controversial.
They're so weird and quirky, and I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
They require a lot of care. Cats require almost no care.
So
and
I
for
was
me,
not a
that
cat
just
person.
does it.
Yeah, I wasn't a cat person. My girlfriend has 3 cats.
For real?
And I like these cats.
They're funny.
They're kind of fun.
Yeah.
So she's turned me into half of a cat person, I think. So
well, I think, remember that earlier question? Have we changed our minds on things?
There you
Yeah.
go.
Guys, thanks for watching. We're going to do this epic Twitter party every weekend. So send us your questions, and we will see you here tomorrow for Rising. Have a great day.
See you tomorrow.